The film begins with documentary footage recounting the history of Norwegian tsunamis, which have caused tragic events several times. A landslide that occurred on the night of January 5, 1905, struck while people were sound asleep. This happened in Lodalen, in Nordfjord, when a large portion of the mountain collapsed into the sea, killing 63 people. A 40-meter-high tsunami swept away everything along the shore. Many years have passed since the tragedy, but people still live in danger. According to observations, there are 300 unstable mountainous areas across the country. Everyone knows that the next major landslide is only a matter of time. The most likely location is Geiranger, where part of the mountain Akerneset looms over the fjord. Its massive unstable section could collapse into the sea at any moment, triggering another tsunami. Here, the formation of cracks is actively monitored. But can people be warned about the danger in advance? Geologist Christian Eikjord lives in the small Norwegian village of Geiranger with his wife, Idun, and their 2 children, Julia and Sondre. One day, he returns home by ferry from a nearby town while everyone is busy with their own activities. His daughter is cooking, and Idun is fixing the sink, leading to a suggestion to call a plumber. However, Idun handles the task skillfully with a wrench. All this, however, is about to end, as the family is moving to a big city where a new house controlled by a remote and a phone awaits them. Christian's childlike excitement about the house is evident. Christian is anxious because he is not just changing his place of residence, but also his job. He even considers throwing out all his shirts, though they aren't that old. Now he will work for an oil company and seeks change in every aspect of his life. Eden supports this ambition, believing it will benefit their relationship. On his last day at work, Christian visits the Central Seismological Station, where he has worked for several years. He is bid farewell by his colleagues, Jakob, Arvid, Margot, and Georg. They laugh at his concerns and wish the family all the best in their new life. Jakob, the manager, delivers a speech praising Christian's work ethic, calling him intelligent and diligent, though admittedly overly meticulous. The friends toast to his future success, and Christian begins packing his belongings. However, just before leaving, Christian notices that the sensors show a sharp drop in groundwater levels in 2 areas of the mountain, though no other alarming events have occurred. Everything seems stable, even though the siren keeps signaling danger. Nonetheless, Christian's colleagues assure him that everything is fine and urge him to head home, where his family is packing their belongings into the car. Taking a deep breath, Christian leaves, though he cannot shake the ominous signs from his mind. Idun reminds her husband once again about the upcoming move and complete career shift, and Christian agrees to let go of work concerns. Meanwhile, Sondre expresses his reluctance to move as he considers the village his home, where he feels comfortable and secure. Family friends also joke about the attempt to change their lifestyle, doubting that life in a big city or Christian in a tie will suit them. Eden mentions that she will have to stay behind for a couple more days to finish her last shifts at the local hotel, while Christian watches the mountain with unease. After saying goodbye to friends, he takes the children and heads to the ferry crossing. But suddenly, he turns around and returns to the station to check the instrument readings one more time. Leaving the children in the car, he rushes to his colleagues, shows them the documentation, and suggests that the problem might not lie in the sensors, but in the wires connected to them. All mountains consist of layers, and the boreholes drilled by seismologists pass through these layers. Groundwater cannot simply disappear. It finds new paths and creates new layers, causing shifts that may damage the wires. If this is the case, there won't be any warning signs before a landslide. Realizing the seriousness of Christian's hypothesis, Jakob sends Christian and Arvid to the mountain. They fly to the observation platform and descend into the crevice. Meanwhile, Sondre, tired of waiting for his father, calls his mother, and Idun learns that the children are still sitting in the car near the seismological station. At the same time, Christian and Arvid descend deeper and soon confirm that wires are indeed broken in one area, indicating that a layer of rock has shifted. This supports Christian's belief that a disaster could happen at any moment. Christian suspects groundwater movement could destabilize the mountain, triggering a collapse and a devastating wave that would destroy the village. However, Arvid and others are hesitant to act, fearing panic could ruin the newly started tourist season. The station manager orders increased monitoring, but dismisses Christian's concerns, as broken wires aren't definitive proof. A distraught Christian leaves and discovers that it's already evening. His children, tired of waiting for him, have gone to the hotel to be with their mother. He drives to Idun, who is furious at him. Christian is forced to apologize. After a tense conversation, Idun agrees to postpone their departure until the next day and to spend the night at the hotel, as their home is now empty, with furniture tossed into the dumpster. However, Julia asks to visit their house one last time to say goodbye. She and Christian leave, while Sondre stays behind at the hotel. At home, Christian retrieves a mattress for Julia and an armchair for himself from the dumpster, intending to spend the night there. While doing so, he notices a box containing his old papers. Meanwhile, Jakob and Arvid, who are spending the night monitoring the observation station in the mountains, discuss Christian's behavior. They doubt someone as restless as him will last long in an oil company and speculate that his family will soon return to their town. After all, these mountains have a way of holding on to people. As darkness falls over the fjord, people head to bed. Sondre, unable to sleep, grabs his skateboard and heads to the hotel's basement, where he rides it through the corridors. Back at the station, the sensors are triggered again. Margot calls Jakob and Arvid to report the readings. The sensors indicate that the mountain has compressed in an unusual way, which shouldn't be possible. The men decide to go to the crevice to investigate further. At the same time, Christian, unable to sleep, digs through the box of old reports on seismic activity in Norway. He finds evidence that in 2 previous landslides, the mountain cracks did not widen beforehand, but instead compressed. Armed with this discovery, Christian calls the station and urges Margot to bring Arvid and Jakob back immediately. He explains that the compression of the cracks often precedes a landslide. His findings are relayed to Arvid, and Christian insists they return. However, as Arvid and Jakob begin to explore the dangerous area, the plates shift. The crevice walls start to close and the climbing anchors become unstable. Christian realizes that avalanches typically occur after compression and calls the station again, urging Margot to sound the alarm. Hearing the urgency in his voice, she activates the emergency warning system. The city's siren blares, signaling an immediate evacuation and indicating that they have only 10 minutes before the surrounding mountains collapse and a massive tsunami forms. In the mountain crevice, Jakob falls into the gap, and Arvid, trying to save him, plummets into the abyss. A colossal mass of land crashes into the fjord, triggering the tsunami. Christian and Julia race to safety in their car, while Idun realizes what is happening. She and her colleague rush to alert the hotel guests, urging them to board the evacuation bus as quickly as possible. Many guests don't believe in the impending danger, forcing the women to run frantically through the hotel, convincing everyone to leave. Idun contacts Christian, urging him to drive Julia to safety. She promises that she and Sondre will get on the bus with the tourists. However, when she rushes to Sondre's room, she finds it empty. Panicking, she begins searching for him. On the road, traffic to higher ground halts near a viewing platform. Christian urges people to abandon their cars and climb, but few listen until the wave becomes visible. Meanwhile, Idun refuses to leave without Sondre and returns to the hotel, joined by Maria and Philip, a couple offering to help. On the mountain road, Christian finds a woman trapped between cars. He sends Julia ahead to climb and rushes to free her. Just before the wave hits, he shoves her into a car and climbs in with her. The wave smashes the vehicle, shattering glass and tossing it across the rocks. Christian is knocked unconscious after hitting his head. Meanwhile, Idun and the couple finally find Sondre in a corridor. Together, they run for the exit, only to stop in horror as the massive wave crashes into the hotel. Maria freezes in fear, and Idun struggles to pull her back inside. The water demolishes the first floor, destroying everything in its path. Idun shouts for everyone to retreat to the basement, and they rush to the shelter. They manage to lock themselves in the basement, which is designed as a bomb shelter. However, Maria is swept away by the water, leaving Philip devastated. Christian regains consciousness in the overturned car and realizes that the woman he saved has died. The wave has receded. At the station, Margot detects a signal from Jakob, who somehow survived. However, Arvid is gone and she breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the tragedy. Christian crawls out of the wrecked car and begins making his way up the damaged road, strewn with mangled vehicles. Eventually, he finds Julia among the survivors. Meanwhile, Idun checks the shelter, which is rapidly filling with water. Christian borrows a phone, contacts the viewing platform, and learns that the bus from the hotel never arrived. No one knows what happened to the passengers. Determined, Christian decides to make his way to the hotel himself, urging Julia to stay with a trusted couple and promising to find and bring back her mother. Meanwhile, Idun tries to open a door behind which a massive amount of water is pressing. Realizing that opening it could doom them all, they close the door again and attempt to seal the gaps with their jackets. Idun reminds them that once the corridor fills with water, the pressure inside and outside the room will equalize, allowing them to swim out without being swept away by a powerful current. Christian, making his way along the road, sees destroyed houses and scattered corpses. He comes across the wreckage of the hotel bus, where all passengers have perished. Climbing inside, he examines the bodies, relieved to confirm that neither his wife nor his son is among them. He continues toward the hotel through the devastated streets of the obliterated town. In the basement, now almost entirely filled with water, the 3 survivors find an air pocket beneath a ventilation pipe. Idun urges Philip and Sondre to hold on and wait for the water to stabilize. However, Philip panics and, in a desperate attempt to save himself, begins drowning Sondre. Idun manages to hold off the crazed man for a while, but when her son starts choking on water, she is forced to subdue Philip by drowning him with her legs underwater. Meanwhile, Christian finally reaches the hotel. He searches the rooms and finds some of his son's belongings in one of them, breaking down and crying over them. Overcome with despair and anger at the forces beyond his control, he begins striking a metal window frame with a stick. Hearing the noise, Idun and Sondre in the basement begin banging in response. However, Christian doesn't hear them. Determined, Idun dives, retrieves a piece of metal, and starts striking it against the pipe casing. Realizing where the sound is coming from, Christian descends into the basement just as the water begins rapidly filling the last remaining air pocket. Idun dives underwater while Christian works to clear a debris-blocked door. Meeting his wife underwater, he swims toward their son. At this point, Sandre is nearly defeated, having lost all hope. Christian reminds him how much he is needed by his family. Motivated, the boy pulls himself together and they start swimming to safety. However, during their escape, Sandre begins to panic and loses his sense of direction. Christian shares his last breath of air with his son, pushing him toward Idun. Realizing her husband has likely drowned, Idun dives after him, pulling Christian into the corridor and performing CPR. As Idun starts losing hope, Sandre refuses to give up. He continues resuscitation efforts until, finally, Christian regains consciousness. The family embraces, overjoyed to have survived. Morning arrives and rescue teams reach the town. Julia, left in the care of family friends, anxiously watches every passing vehicle, desperately hoping to see her parents, but they are nowhere to be found. Suddenly, she spots her father, mother, and brother walking down the road. Overcome with emotion, she runs toward them. Around them, survivors begin to stir, haunted by the horrors of the previous night. Today, the crevices of Akerneset are under constant observation. Every year, they widen by 15 centimeters. Experts are certain that a landslide will eventually occur, but no one knows when. Director Roar Uthaug's film is an impressive drama and thriller that compels viewers to reflect on the value of life and the fight to preserve it. Shot on a relatively modest budget, the film astonishes with its spectacular special effects and gripping storyline, serving as a sobering reminder of nature's power and the fragility of human existence.